Welcome back to another episode of TVGP's We Roguelike It. I'm your host, Boston. Joining me as always is Moonpeer.
Hi.
We're in our fourth and final week of Returnal. Returnal. Still just a weird word to
Returnal.
say. Helios, Atropos, Selene, Returnal. we've got all the Greek stuff.
Yes.
How was your week on the planet?
Not long enough.
Yeah, ditto.
My game club game took up my time instead of this game.
Yeah, also, go check out the Game Club episode for Pacific Drive.
Yeah.
To find out where
Yeah.
most of our time went recently.
Yeah. Like 8 hours of my game time. Shockingly, I got more than an hour a day or 30 minutes a day, and
Hey,
I spent
nice.
it all playing Pacific Drive.
Yeah.
Dude, the red zone is so hard.
Oh,
Like,
the sandy, deserty area?
yes, dude,
Yeah.
I'm nowhere near. Is there permanent like upgrades between runs other than the extra abilities that you get?
So there's two things. One is the abilities you're getting where you're like, looks like this alien technology. I'll just slap it
I'm
on my
just waiting
body.
for my grappling hook. Like
Yep.
that's literally
Yeah.
what I'm waiting for.
The grappling hook is pretty cool, man.
Is there a double jump?
No, which is interesting. But you can do some pretty wacky stuff with the grappling hook. There is an ability to get to higher up areas that you don't need the grappling hook for, but it's not a double jump, which is...
Is it a jetpack?
No, it's actually shoot these things you couldn't see before, and it makes a bunch of platforms.
Okay.
Yeah, which is wild. But the only other thing there is when you have that the little obelisk before you, like when you respawn, that you can feed the ether into.
Mhm.
That unlocks more artifacts. Those are the only two things that,
Of
yeah, which
course.
is still, when this game came out, I still don't know how to feel about a lot of Returnal, because Returnal is really hard, and
It is. It is shocking how difficult this is.
that second area is like a real, like, 85-degree up ramp in difficulty, and
Uh-huh.
I feel like this game would be a lot easier if you were improving Selene or the suit, or
If you
something
had
run
meta
over run.
progression, I
Yeah,
think it would be considerably easier.
but I wonder how much of that runs counter to the game's design of, you need to get better, your quote unquote thumb skill needs to get better, just sort of by like
Mhm.
being thrown to the
So that
wolves.
that was the issue I ran into is I took too long of a break.
Yes. Like you forgot how
Um,
to ride the bike for a little bit.
yes, and then everything was just like, oh, now I suck at the dodging, I
Yep.
suck at the dashing, I suck at the jumping, my
You forget the
timing is all
enemy shot
off.
patterns.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
just like, oh well,
And the other thing too that I think from a design perspective seems really deliberate is the kind of, not risk reward, but like, how fast are you going to go through a run? If you're going to really try and push deep into the second area, are you going to mine everything out of the first area and kind of drain that entire thing of all of the upgrades you can and find a really great gun roll, etc., etc.? Or are
uh-huh.
you going to try and push into the second zone and kind of get something lucky there, or use your skill to get further than maybe you'd be able to otherwise? Um, and I think that's really interesting from a design perspective, but I'm also with you that sometimes I wonder, what if this game had a kind of a more familiar roguelike meta progression sort of system? How would that make... Would it still be Returnal, or would it be something that's maybe a little bit more
There,
accessible?
yeah.
Yeah.
I I think so. I think that's probably the thing that's getting to me right now most is the lack of meta progression. So I think it would be so much more accessible to people if it had that option
Hmm.
available to it.
And I think there's something to be said about the in roguelikes, death is the game. Like losing a run
Yes.
is the game. So like don't misunderstand, no listeners misunderstand what I'm going to say next, but there still needs to be an aspect of, oh, okay, I lost a run and I died, but I still made some sort of progress other than skill wise or like learning enemy patterns or something. It feels really great to make progress in something at the end of a run, even if the run wasn't successful. Um, and Returnal, as much as I love it, doesn't have that. And there are definitely runs where you make it far enough and you just get boned by a bunch of enemies all in the same room that kind of countered you and like juggled you, or you just backed up off of a cliff and you lost a run. It's like, well, come on, man, I just wasted like a 45-minute run
Mm-hmm.
and I got no ether, so like I didn't do anything. Like that feels frustrating. That's a
Yeah, like it's the problem we run into less so with Isaac because actually even with Isaac, with you've mentioned it before with Gungeon, with
yeah.
there's a bunch that are just like not ideal. Like
Mhm.
where it's just like, yeah, I literally just felt like I had a really good run going, and then I ran into a room with lasers that I don't know anything about.
Yeah.
And because I ran into that room, I am now dead, and that run is entirely out the window. Because
Right.
there's a room in the Crimson Place that when you go through a doorway, it disables your dashes. The floor is red, and it's like I don't know what I'm supposed to
Oh,
do here, and
yeah,
I died.
you can't do that one yet. So
Yeah,
like
I
that's
figured that
the
after the first time, but that's a punishing room to
right.
experiment in and die, and then have to go back to the start of the run again.
Right. And like the only reason I know that you can't do that is because I've gotten the upgrade that lets you walk on the red floors. But like
Uh-huh.
you see a lot of games now, like we're recording in 2024, and like one of the biggest controversies this year has been yellow paint. Gasp! Oh, how could they?
Uh-huh.
But there's something to be said about a roguelike that has these kind of, I don't want to say they're Metroidvania elements because that's not really the right term, but like you're getting stuff in a future area that you're like, oh, well, now I have the grappling hook, so now we can get all these extra areas in the first zone to get some sort of upgrades. So now the game kind of unfolds and gets a little bit bigger, but with those kind of red floors, it would be okay for even Celine to be like, I don't have the tools right now. Like I got to come back to this a little bit later. There's a
Yeah,
little
some
bit of
some
that.
form of like audio cue would be great because like I encountered like a weird rock monster with a really strong shell, and there was an audio cue for that.
Oh god, those ones are the worst. The like sand crab things that
Yeah.
launch like Macross missiles at you. Oh, they're the worst.
Uh-huh.
They're I hate them so much. Probably my least favorite enemy in the entire game are those guys. Ugh. I always forget about them and I run into them and I'm like, oh, cool, good. I'm probably just gonna lose this run now. Great. Yep. Super
Yeah,
good.
he was not nice. I beat
Yeah.
him, but he was not nice.
Yeah. 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 I agree with you. I still like Returnal a lot. You know, we'll let the scientists take over, passing final judgment
It
on it next week. But
it's
like,
fun and it's beautiful and it looks incredible.
it controls so well. Like, it feels so good to play when you
Hmm.
get the handle on it, and you're dashing and you're running and you're leaping and you're like dashing through bullets to, like I still hate the like red shielded enemies, but it feels great like zipping through, like three waves of bullets to go next to them and slash them, and it takes them out and kills them. Like,
Yeah,
it feels so good to play it, but how do I feel about it
it's
as a
very, very
roguelike?
difficult.
Yeah, like, between its difficulty and its kind of, thankfully now you can save runs in the middle of them. We were leveraging that complaint about Pacific Drive to talk about that again. But like, the thing I have to think about over the next week is like, how do I feel about this game as a roguelike, kind of taking my own personal action game feelings out of it? You know, how does it feel as a roguelike itself? And
Yeah,
that's gonna be
I,
tough.
yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It's so hard, dude.
It
Like,
really is.
mm,
And like, this is the same studio that made stuff like Super Stardust, which are fun games because they're difficult, but run times were short because it's a very arcade game. But
uh
if you're doing like all three zones back to back, these are pretty long runs that don't really get incredibly easy no matter how much time you have in the game, which is good and is bad at the same time.
it definitely feels like a throwback to the classic like roguelike like
Mm-hmm.
mentality. I just think maybe a bit of meta progression would be useful here. Give
Mm-hmm.
me a Returnal 2. Give me a Returnal 2 with meta progression where you
Yeah.
increase the stuff on the suit. Like,
I'd love to see what they would do with another crack at, even if it's not Returnal, like another crack at making a roguelike, kind of with
uh
the all the lessons they've learned. Because even when this game came out, people were like, "Bro, you can't save in the middle of a run. That's not gonna work, man."
hmm
Thankfully, they were able to put it in, but like, it would be interesting to see them take all the lessons they learned and kind of run with that.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it on our game club one, but it's really, really cool when you figure out that you can get those upgrades that give you more health, that you have those
Yep.
upgrades that increase your durability. Like, that stuff is really cool. And our game club game is kind of roguelike-ish,
Yeah.
one might say.
Yeah, if anyone hasn't played, it just came out earlier this year, but if anyone hasn't played Pacific Drive, there's a considerable amount of roguelike elements into that I don't think I knew about going into it, but has all those kind of hallmarks of, well, I'm pushing deeper and deeper into the game, but because I'm mining resources out of the beginning of the game, I'm better equipped to handle the things in the later parts of the game. So it's still hard, but you have a little bit more of a safety net. So
Yeah.
yeah, Returnal is really cool, though. It's just it's hard as a game, but it's also kind of hard to figure out how I feel about it in general.
Yeah.
So
Going back, I mean, I'm sure the scientists will look at it more, but like going back, does this change your opinion? Because I know you were really high on it when you
mm-hmm.
first played it.
Yeah, I still feel really high about it because I really love it as an action game. Like it's the shooting and the movement and the dodging, especially like how all of that feels so laser focused. That stuff still feels really great. But I think as we play more roguelikes, just in general, but also as part of this show, I think the thing that I'm going to be challenging myself to think about during this next week, like I said, is like, sure, it's a great action game. It's a really great video game, but as a roguelike, how does that
Uh-huh.
stack up to a lot of really great action roguelikes that we've played? And that's the thing that I really got to chew on. I'm not sure how I feel yet.
Yeah. I don't know.
All right, any final thoughts here for our final week of Returnal?
It's fun. It's just like I said, it's just extremely hard.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for listening. If you'll tune in next week for the scientists to join with their scientific method, putting roguelikes on the big list over at weroguelikeit.com. You can check the whole list
Uh-huh.
over there. And we'll see you all next run. Bye.
Bye.